So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Thursday, October the 14th, 2021. And their calling number is 563-999-3581 and press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And, Susan, I'm going to turn your mic back on. I caught just part of your conversation with Dr. Tim, so while I'm waiting on Michael to get dialed in, I've heard a lot of people using the microdosing to get past depression and post-traumatic stress and those kinds of things. However, it's usually done with like a psychiatrist or psychologist or someone who's familiar with the microdosing, so that when they are microdosing, that they are also processing and I don't know a lot about it, but from what I do know, like they're given a microdose, but they're also then able to process through once the microdosing takes effect or whatever. And so it's not just, drugging something down or whatever, but it's allowing them to process without the emotional attachment to whatever it is they're processing. Does that make sense?
Yes, well, just the first part especially, just the idea that the oversight of a wise psychiatrist who understands microdosing would be fantastic. I like the idea that it could be. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I apologize. Go ahead.
I just like the idea
I know,
that it could be used. Okay.
Yeah. Now, we have a center in Johnson City, which Johnson City is a lot larger city than here in Bristol. It's probably a 30-minute drive from here. And I'm not familiar with how they do it or what they do, but I know that they do the microdosing and the processing and things like that. It's not just that they prescribe it and leave the patient on their own to take it as they will, but that when they are microdosing, that they're actually able to look at a situation and process through it or talk about it or whatever without being emotionally attached, that they can just, it's kind of like still point breathing, that you're able to just move through it and process it without the attachment to the outcome or the attachment to the feeling or anything else. But I believe that they actually have them in their clinic, and they give them a microdose, but then they also, process with them and work through whatever's going on for them and let them talk and let them process and make sure that they're, back grounded again before they let them go again. It's not that they just give it to them and let them dose themselves however they want to. I'm not sure, but I think that from what I understand, that's kind of how they do it here. And, I haven't experienced it or anything, so I don't know. I'm kind of talking just from hearsay. But you might want to check and see if, and maybe you've got a clinic there, or maybe even whoever prescribed it for him can give you some more information about it. But
do they have live-in rehabilitation? Is it a facility for living in?
No, it's just that they go there like you would go to see, like if you went to a psychiatrist and you spent an hour in their office and talked or whatever. It's kind of like that, except that they give them a microdose, and I don't know if it's LSD or if it's, something else, but that they actually spend an hour or two or 3 or I don't know, however long it takes for the process. And they have them, from what I've looked at some videos and things on it, that they, maybe have them lay down and be comfortable, and they have music playing or something, and they allow them to just go through whatever comes up for them in that time. And, Dr. Tim's absolutely right. If they're just microdosing and just, drugging themselves to not feel or not think or whatever, it's definitely not going to get rid of the cause. It's just another Band-Aid. But if he were able to process while he's microdosing, then he might be able to move through it. But I do know that they're using it for PTSD and depression and different things like that. Michael has joined us, and he can probably add more. Michael, what we're talking about is Susan's grandson and doing microdosing. And I said, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know that there's a clinic here where the patient actually goes in and they stay however long it takes for the process, and they give them a microdose of something, not necessarily LSD, but they allow them to process through it. It's not just that they prescribe it to them and let them go dose themselves. And she's talking about, that the possibilities or whatever of her grandson going, Michael just dropped, so hopefully he'll get back on and I'll finish talking. Give him just a minute. He must have just lost connection.
I wonder if you could send me the name of that place and I could ask them if there's a facility up in Pennsylvania that we could take Jacob to.
Sure, absolutely. Michael, what I was saying is that if they're microdosing, they absolutely need to be processing it too, and not just dosing themselves so that they don't feel. That it allows them to process without the emotional attachment. But so she was asking if I could send her the information of the place in Johnson City, and maybe they can tell her if there's a place up there.
Right.
It's not a place where they go and stay and live. They just go for however long the session takes.
Right. What are you talking about microdosing? I mean, he's been on LSD. Is someone suggesting doing microdosing, Susan?
He told her that he was microdosing, but what he was doing was doubling up on it.
Yeah.
He was microdosing, and then he took a double dose of straight LSD and crashed. But on the microdosing, he thought he was extremely creative, and he kept saying, I don't need to sleep, and he didn't sleep for a month, and then he had a complete psychotic thing, which you heard about already.
Right, right.
But he keeps talking about going back on...
Go ahead, Susan.
He keeps talking about going back on microdosing because he felt so good on it. And he's living with us, and we're not giving him money. I imagine he has some stuff hidden in the basement. I wouldn't know. He swears he's not taking anything. But he was better for a couple of days, and now this morning we went for a walk. He's completely manic. He was up in the night visiting us in the bedroom, asking to go for walks and obsessing about this, that, and the other. He's really gone off again, really off. And I'm up at my son's house so that I can talk freely. And he doesn't know I'm up here. If he did know, he would follow me up here. He's sticking to me like glue.
Right.
So
does
anyway,
he get, or is he capable of comprehending that, well, he says, I was feeling great, this is the end result of it, that it isn't working at all? Does he get that, or does he still believe that he was doing just fine and this is some kind of an anomaly?
Both. It depends on which Jacob I'm talking to. And I'm telling you, this is like a boy with at least two personalities now.
Right. Sounds like he needs some serious professional help, and I wouldn't suggest he go off doing microdosing under supervision or not under supervision. I think he needs some straight up help to start with, and maybe someone who understands microdosing if he was doing LSD or what else he was doing. I just don't know. I'm not familiar with that arena, but it sounds like he's gotten himself into some serious challenges.
Well,
how are you doing at all?
A psychiatrist. Oh, I'm exhausted. But he's seen a psychiatrist, but it's all conventional medicine. He's got 3 different prescriptions for, one for psychosis, one for anxiety, and one for sleep, and another one for anxiety and depression or something. And this is painful to watch because I know this is, as Amy said, it's a Band-Aid. It's not addressing things.
Well,
but I'm
sadly,
also,
with most antipsychotics, one of the side effects is psychosis.
God.
It's crazy, but that's the practice of medicine today.
Well,
I'd be doing my best to get him to lay down and breathe if I could. That would, tend to oxygenate him, get energy moving through his system. If you can get him to put his hand in the avicin, get some circulation going, chances are with the amount of drugs that he's been using that he may have also, one of the responses to the body to something that's attacking, especially delicate parts like the brain, is to create congestion, to try to keep the toxins out of tissue, and that congestion will tend to restrict circulation. Get his circulation back in order, wherever congestion is, and it's going to tend to start to normalize, or at least give him a chance to get there. So if he'll do it, I'd get him to start putting his hand in the avicin a couple times a day, and see if that helps to support his body working its way back to normalcy with circulation.
Yeah, I lent it to my friend Gina a couple of weeks ago. I haven't heard from her how it's doing with her hand, so I'll have to get it back.
That'd probably be a good idea. I think that to me would sound important, because if he's done that much of, legal and illegal medication, then the body's protecting itself, and there's going to likely be congestion happening. And I think that's part of why there are so many side effects, aside from the fact that at the levels at which he's dosing, whichever it is, those things are not discriminatory. There are, receptor sites for different functions. We think of something as being a mental function, but there are receptor sites in the gut for it. There are receptor sites in the skin cells for it. And when they don't, like where the body says, oh, I need this in these cells, a micro amount of a particular piece of information or chemical, the body produces that. But when they go in and they do 10 milligrams, which is 100 million times what the body's doing, those molecules are not discriminatory. So they'll go and plug the receptor sites in the brain, they'll plug the receptor sites in the heart, they'll plug the receptor sites in the liver, in the gut, and now communication shut down. Now you got a whole other realm of problems. So one of the best things that I would think of doing would, along with, of course, as much support as you can get from somebody who really knows their stuff with the drugs, is detoxing him. It's getting that stuff cleared out of his system. Plus, it's hard. It sounds like he's gotten himself in a pickle.
He does, and he's terrified of going off drugs. His dad was a big pill-popping person, still is, and so he says, maybe I need this drug, maybe I need that drug. Could you ask the psychiatrist to get me this, to get me that? It's the mindset is very
if he's
powerful.
If he's asking for drugs by name, it sounds like he's been doing a lot more playing around with them than you'll probably ever know. And
I'm sure that's true. I found long needles, like heroin type needles, in his apartment when I was cleaning it out, and we've never spoken of heroin as part of the picture of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow, Grandma, you've taken on a load here.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
And I'm tired, and I'm sick, and I'm up at my son's house hiding out here for a while because he sticks to me like glue, wants to go for walks, needs to talk. It's exhausting. So I've been doing my work, but
this is Luke's
told
brother?
Dr. Tim. Yeah, Jacob. Yep. And Luke is convinced he's taking microdosing, and his father and mother both think he is. But when I say, are you doing that stuff, he looks me right in the eye and says, no, I've been clean for a month. But he doesn't act clean.
Well, it's easy enough to find out how clean he is and take him in for a test. Get him tested. And you can test him and tell him you want to test him under the guise of, well, if you've got any residual, we need to find out what it is so we can get it out of your body. Because you're not, point out to them, you're not acting clean. So there's obviously some residual. We need to find out what it is and get you cleaned out. And maybe what he needs to do is go into a detox program.
Yeah, he will just he will refuse that. He was a week in the hospital, and he was just felt as if he was in hell. And it wasn't a great program. It was mainly just to watch you and have you play Parcheesi and cards and watch what you do and medicate you up to the gills.
Yeah.
Wasn't good. And so
it's a business.
He's refusing. He's refusing to go to a place like that. I feel as if Tim and I are his hospital, but we have no tools. We have our tools to help ourselves get through it.
Yeah.
But I'm at a complete loss, Michael. So anyway, checking in.
There are some programs around that are not run by the medical profession, but are run with the support and assistance of a medical doctor, but they're run by people who've been through the mill and know the routine. Maybe he'd be willing to do something like that. It'd be a whole different thing than going into a hospital where, the only solution most of them know is, well, all you need is another med. It's like, excuse me, meds are the problem.
Right.
They're not the solution.
Well, he wants to go back to school. He knows how to present himself. The dean said if you can get somebody on the outside to approve you're coming back and your parents or your grandparents approve, then you can come back. So he's talking about coming back, and he got approval from he had a physical yesterday. Come on, Em. And the doctor said that, sure, you can go back. And my self-preservative, not very loving thought is let him go back and crash one more time because he's so resistant. And then we'll deal with it because he'll finally maybe be convinced that he needs some help. But that's not safe to do that.
It's not safe. He's going back into the environment that is a big part of
right. He knows
what induces that kind of behavior.
Right. Come on. Yeah.
Do you know anybody that might come and talk to him as an NA sponsor?
That would be a good idea. I took him to an NA meeting, and it was high drama. He kept running out. Another guy and I kept running after him, convincing him to come back. He'd sit there, agitated, pacing, going to the men's room. Finally, he ran out for the last time, and so that was a complete psychodrama. It didn't work.
Of course, he knows how to play the game.
Yeah, he does.
Sounds like he knows how to play the game, so he can keep it stirring. But if you can find a sponsor, someone who knows that game from both sides, that can
that's a good idea.
Catch him in his game and support him through recognizing he needs some assistance, and that's someone who isn't, full on with the medical approach, which is, well, we'll smother him with another drug, and then, hey, this won't be a problem. But I would think that would maybe be one of the best if you can, maybe go back to the people that you connected in with that NA meeting and see if you can find somebody that knows how to work with a kid that age. It's a definite skill.
That sounds doable because I could keep him here. Not that I want to anymore. I would love to have him just disappear. I'm telling you, that's how much love I'm showing right now. This is just too much. But
I understand. I hear you.
I think, I'd love to have
Where's
somebody
his mom
come
at
to
this
the house.
point?
She's in Florida, and she's working full time, and she's very relieved that he's staying with us. She couldn't possibly keep him there because she's not there all day. He would just be knocking around the house and finding ways of getting stuff to take.
Right.
Tim and I are in a good position to do this. We just need, Tim is peaceful. Tim just observes, and he's just, he says, well, Jacob's kind of quirky, and that's pretty much his take on it. And I'm in red hot panic and doing my worksheets, and we tend to react very differently. Tim is helping out around the house to take some of the load off me because there's extra cooking and stuff going on. But
sure.
Anyway,
I think if you can find a dual diagnosis sponsor, counselor, you might call around some of the drug, alcohol, because has he been doing alcohol as well, or is it just different drugs?
Yeah, he does everything. He does anything he can get his
so
hands on.
Probably a dual diagnosis counselor that knows how to deal with a teenager and the stresses a teenager is going through and can speak his language.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably that would be my highest thought. And
okay.
There are probably some good people there, and the best way to key into them would be probably through whoever connected you in with that NA group, and specifically look for somebody that's worked with teenagers that knows how to talk the teenagers' language and knows the wily mind of the teenager in the culture and all the tricks they can play, because that's a big part of being able to work through that and get a kid like him to recognize he really does have a problem that's life-threatening.
Yeah,
life
and he would say,
well, sanity.
He would say, well, so what? I don't really want to live anyway. I mean, he's really giving us a line. I think he means it too, but he promised he wouldn't do anything. But,
so that would need to be thrown in the mix. That he has threatened suicide with an alcohol and drug counselor.
Yeah.
Or an NA member, and it may not even be a counselor. It may just be another young person who's been there, done that, and come out the other side and is willing to support people in that walk, because it's a tough walk. It's a very, I mean, for a kid that age who's straight and sober, it's a tough walk, let alone all the things he's got going on, and a father, in the realm that his father was in. I mean, it's just, he needs somebody who's walked that road, who can gain his confidence and walk it with him, would be my highest thought.
Okay, that's a good high thought. Thanks.
In the meantime, we'll certainly hold a space for him and for you, and delighted that you're using it as your opportunity to move through your next layer.
I have to keep reminding myself of that, Michael.
I understand. Been there, done that.
Okay.
So is there anything we can do to support you personally in this process?
Well, I've got the tools. I'm super tired because he comes up at night and visits us, and so I'm just trying to eat well, and I escaped to my son's house, which I told you I was right now, so that he didn't come and knock on the door. I feel as if my thread is getting quite thin. I know that's not a good image to use, but my daughter's going to Al-Anon and says it's extremely helpful. And she said, Mom, I've tried everything, and he may not live, and I have to be okay with that. And I'm not there yet.
That's a tough one, and it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Sometimes steps need to be taken that leave a kid in that position in great risk, and sometimes they're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And that is something that you need to resolve, that if that occurs, one, you're not responsible, and two, that it's kind of like you pre-approve. It's like a person on their deathbed doesn't want to go because you're hurting, and it's like you give permission for them to go, and when you give permission, if they go, then you rejoice in them going rather than, playing out more trauma. And so having even a conversation with him in your head where you give him permission, if that's what he needs to do, and free your emotional blindnesses in that regard, will open a space for you to be more capable. Say again?
That's an amazing and powerful thing to say. For you to say to me and for me to think, to allow in. It just stretches the boundaries a little. It includes more possibilities.
I hear you. And, there's no easy way around that one. Young people playing with drugs and alcohol like that, they die. It happens too often. And if you're not stuck in guilt and trauma as a possibility, if that occurs, then you've got a clearer mind with which to support him through the other side, whichever way he decides to go. But he's the one who's going to be making the decisions and the choices, not you.
Yeah, that's a great relief to hear. And I have been with him enough now to know how hard he fights for his illness and how much I've done, which has fallen on deaf ears, I think. I'm not sure. So that's very helpful. I don't think I would go through a whole guilt thing. I would have if I hadn't done what I've done, but he, in 1 week, has pushed us to our limit.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
So, anyway, thank you for your counseling and listening. Jeannie, too. Hello, Jeannie.
Well, where we are reachable, and anytime we can be of support, radio show time or not. But I would definitely get the Avison back and get his hand in it. If you can get some congestion clearing out, you may see some magnificent changes.
Yeah, well, he did clear up for a day or two on ibuprofen, and that is a known, Dr. Tim said that was a known response to inflammation of the brain, and if that's what was making him psychotic and he responded that way, then you could go with that, treat him for a few more days, but he's refusing, even though he felt better, and he's saying that it's because of this anti-anxiety pill or this. I think what it is he's microdosing again, and he's feeling better. He's feeling giddily better. He's dancing up and down the street, calling out to strangers, being super friendly, and this is a shy introvert boy. So,
so he's got his hands on more drugs.
Yeah.
Well, I offer a big star for your efforts in holding the space. It's huge.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, yeah.
So any other thoughts? Anything else we can support you with?
Not at the moment, Michael. I'm heading home. Just wish us luck. He's probably home wondering where the heck I am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Holding you in our hearts.
Bye.
All right.
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Difficult road to travel.
Yeah, a tough place to be.
Yep. So, Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody else in the chat room with anything to say? Or anybody with a hand up in the phone queue?
No, it is all quiet. Tippy is with us in the chat room, so welcome from Thailand. Yeah. But there are no hands up. Switchboard's pretty full. So if someone has a question, press 1. Michael's unloading the vehicle. Give him a few minutes, and then he'll be able to do the reading from the book. We have 33 minutes left in the show.
We are getting ready to head off to Massanutten to get some in-law time with our granddaughter for a week, starting Sunday. And I'm working to get the greenhouse closed in so that all of our winter vegetables, and especially our precious tomatoes, make it through the week we're gone. So I've just been out getting the last, what I hope are the last supplies for the greenhouse, and all systems go. So how can we support you? Our calling number, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, it's 563-999-3581. If you call that number, we're having a conversation. If you push 1, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, that's the number to call so that we can have a conversation. And we would love to have a conversation with you. So what's on your mind? Are we going to have silence through the rest of the show? We can write a song and echo the sound of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon gods they made. Thank you, Simon and Garfunkel, for some of the great stuff you put together.
Yeah. So our calling number is 563-999-3581 and press 1. That raises a hand and puts you into queue. And since I immediately started talking to Susan, I didn't invite you to go to the website, which is whyagain.org, WHYAGAIN.org. You can click on the Start Here button, which is in the upper left corner, or you can scroll down and hit the bullseye in the middle of the page. Both of those take you to the same place, and that is where you'll find all the tools and explanations of how to get started in this work if you're not familiar with it, how to refresh your memory if you've been away from it for a while, and how to move forward with your work. So I invite you to go there. So nobody's pressing 1, so I guess we go to the reading.
Okay. So just give me about 1 minute. Maybe tell people about the app, and I'll get to the book.
Okay, I'll do that. So the app has been renovated or improved, and so if you haven't updated it on your phone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, go and click the update. It now has the commitments on there. There have been changes made so that the print issue is cleared up. You can either when you click print, you have the option. You can either save it to your phone as a PDF, or you can actually print it to a printer if you have your phone connected to a printer at your house. And so that works out good too. And so you have those options with the app, and they had been giving us a little bit of challenges before, and I think we've got all that cleared up. Let me know if you run into anything else. And the worksheets on the website have been cleaned up as well, so there shouldn't be any issues there either. So just let us know. You can drop me a line at Jeanie, JEANIE, at whyagain.org. Let me know if you run into any URL on the website that's not working right. I am back to working on the product list. I'm hoping to get it completed before we leave Sunday, because I know we're going to be super busy, and I want to keep the work part of next week to a minimal. So hopefully I'll have the products cleared up before we leave. It's going to be grandparents' weekend. Ryan and Gabby, my son and his wife, are headed off with some friends of theirs and on a couple's vacation. So we have Aria. So it's going to be Michael and myself and Aria and my dad and then Gabby's parents. And so it's all the grandparents and great-grandparents with Aria. And so she will absolutely be a joy next week, I am sure. So, are you back? Michael, if you're talking, we can't hear you. While I'm waiting to see if Michael's joined us, Ann has put her hand up, so I'm going to click her on. Area code 760, you're on the air. Hi, Ann.
Hey there. Well, while Michael's in transition, maybe he can still hear, and well, you can share anyway. Listening to Susan's situation, and I had, texted her before too, but today listening to it reminded me of Mitzi's book and the whole thing that she went through with her son, Journey. And so I grabbed the book, and it just sounds so much. I just wondered if you guys agreed with that, and maybe getting information for professional intervention would be on their website.
I thought of the exact same thing of Journey's Dream. So, yeah, and Susan has dropped off of the switchboard, so I will definitely text her and see if she has looked at that because, it is. It's just about exactly the same story of what Rex and Mitzi went through with Journey.
And then I was thinking of, her going to Al-Anon as well, but I can always text her that, but I think she's got enough information. And the reason I pulled the book out, I just happen to know where it was the subtitle of Mitzi's book, about her son is A Mother's Account of Love, Loss, and Spiritual Healing. And I just, that subtitle just triggered that for Susan. I mean, because it just sounds so much like you said. So I'm not the only one thinking that.
Yeah, I thought of the exact same thing. I agree, totally.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, Dr. Tim mentioned, different references for the things and that whole integrated health thing that just happened and just the resources on Journey's Dream. So, okay, awesome. That's all I have. Thank you.
I will definitely send her the link to that, and I'll also put it in the notes for today, too. So thank you for mentioning it, Ann.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, blessings. Enjoy your weekend with the kids.
Thank you. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I'm not sure if we will be the most I'm not sure if we're going to be the most spoiled or if she is. It's going to be great. So, welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here, and we'll touch in with our reading of the next section from the chapter on inherited patterns. And, in the conversation we just had with Susan, we're seeing a young man who's reflecting some of the patterns of his generations. Has major stuff to work through. And no easy road for it. Consistent, persistent application of the tools can take the pressure off. So at the point where we're talking to Richard about the chain of abuse that happens oftentimes in families, and asked Richard if he'd be willing to look into some things, and he says yes, and then he changes the subject, and I bring him back to, well, is there any chance you're changing the subject to avoid here? He said, well, I'm willing, he says, with a trace of fear flashing across his face. So I asked him the question as we're stepping in. He's talked about how life was in his family system. And I asked him the question, have you ever thought of that living with you might be like walking through a minefield? No, of course not, came his indignant reply. Are you feeling defensive, Richard? Well, perhaps a little, wouldn't you be? Probably. But I want to be clear that the purpose of bringing things to the surface is to gently look, own them, and let go of what does not work. I'm on your team and want to support you in that process. Has anyone ever given you the feedback about a minefield before? Richard did admit that he had been told more than once that living with him was like walking on eggshells. He again affirmed that he'd never thought of himself in that way. I offer him the information. Seldom do we see ourselves as others see us, and most people never take the time to listen to what others are really saying. Truly taking the time to listen to others provides us with the opportunity to look differently at unconsciously driven behavior, as does being aware of our responses to what others say. Key thought: your relationships and your words are mirrors of your mind. I spoke about his making a practice of searching for his patterns of unconscious driven behavior. I reminded him of our opening conversation or misconversation about responsibility. Recall, Richard, we experienced the same actuality. We even heard identical words, but your listening spoke to you of fault and blame, while mine informed me of responsibility. Remember the upset that surfaced for you and how much hostility he expressed. Actually, he says, I didn't express nearly as much as I felt at that moment. When upset surfaces, we call it an opportunity to forgive, an opportunity to learn to let go of the tendency to blame others for what they trigger in us. Most people tend to experience their mind's interpretation of events in the world and think that is what is actually happening. We tend to think ours is the only truth. Like ripples distort the image on the surface of a pond, there's always some distortion of the images output from the mind when we're in upset. The truth cannot be reflected accurately in a disturbed mind. So hostility or fear, active in the mind, tells us that the mind is engaged in the use of corrupt data and that it is not reflecting accurately the truth. If you can begin to suspect that, then you can begin to change the deeper levels of content of your mind. If you believe what your surface mind is telling you, what your disturbed mind is telling you, if you believe that a mind in hostility or fear can possibly tell you the truth, then it's going to be to look beyond your mind's lies. A mind in hostility or fear will never give you good advice. A mind in hostility or fear will always give you words, thoughts, and rationalizations that will tend to continue the process of disturbance. It's kind of a self-perpetuating thing. The idea of forgiveness is to interrupt those patterns and get back to the truth that's really happening in the moment. And one of the games, one of the pseudo-solutions in non-being mind is to just perpetuate, muddy the water, create more disturbance, more accusation, more hallucinations, the mind generating more garbage to justify its defenses and its beliefs. What simply put, hostility and fear means your mind's lying to you. Now, if you've relied on a mind that's lied to you all your life, you have this rocky road of relationships behind you. And you still believe what your mind tells you. Our objective here is to get each person who's in disturbance to recognize that their disturbance, internal experience, and that if they do what it takes to collapse the perceptual output of their minds, they will process through the corrupt data and arrive at their mind arrive at the place where their minds can more accurately give them the truth of what's going on in any given situation. Hostility and fear won't give you that gift. Just not possible. So another of the reasons for forgiveness is to collapse the liar. And you don't need to know any more about what's going on in a situation, just that your mind is in hostility or fear. To know that is lying to you. And there's no resolution in that. Now, what most people call resolution is, well, we'll have a power struggle. We'll have a fight about it, and whoever wins the fight, then they'll win the argument. It's like, no, there are no winners in that game. Each person in hostility or fear that's willing to return to a mind connected to love is a winner in that game. Not an easy process, but it's doable. And so we're here to offer support for engaging in the tools, for acquiring the skills, and healing. And healing in this context means the removal of hostility and fear, rather than reinforcing the hostile and fearful thoughts, the thoughts that reinforce symptoms, the calling forward of the active presence of love to become free of that. How do you do that? Well, the answer to that is always the same, all of the above. If you went back 10 years ago to the first hour of this show, this is a seminar, a workshop that's been going on for 10 years now, 5 days a week, an hour to 2 hours a day for 10 years. If you went back and listened to every word that I've said, that Jeannie said, that Dr. Tim has said, Michelle has said, in that 10 years, what you would hear is a description of what to do about the situation you're in today. There are many tools that come from many directions that we present. From the nutritional, to the physical, to the mental, to the emotional, and to the spiritual. And the most powerful is the calling forward of active present love in one mind. If you can bring it into two, it's like a mathematical progression. If you can bring it into three, it's stronger yet. So if there's anybody out there in listener land with a question, how about pushing one and let's have a conversation? Anything we can do to support you? Did anybody, we never heard from one person about the mind shifters. Did anybody write their mind shifter? Did anybody work with that one we talked about last week? And if so, what did it bring up for you? What kind of results did it produce for you? And to share that, if you push one, and Jeannie will introduce you by area code, and we'll be having a conversation. And we would love to have a conversation with you. Again, if you're on one of those stations where we can't hear you, calling number is 563-999-3581. Push one. That puts you in queue to have a conversation. Jeannie will introduce you by your area code. We've got about 15 minutes, so let's go for it. Time for the dialogue. Time for the conversation to flow in two directions.
I had a couple of people text me about the sharing of my dream about the deer being shot and falling at my feet and saying, "Hold the space while you eat me." And on their input plus, looking up some stuff on dream interpretation and everything, there were a few things that came out that are really they resonate. And I haven't had a chance to look into it further, but some of the things are, I had started rewriting or writing again in my book. And one of the things that came up was the loss of innocence. And so that's part of what my book is about. It talks about graceful passing into another portion of your life need to reevaluate what's best for you. And then another one said some situation or something in your life is taking your life energy out of you. And then another one was that it was a shadow aspect of my persona and the need to defend and experiencing self-doubt and insecurity. So perhaps the deer was telling me to hold the space while I looked at those situations in my life. I don't know. So I'll look into that a little further. And thank you for those who did text and comment. And I agree that it's connected somehow to the Native American aspect of me. And, that they gave thanks when they killed an animal or something. They gave thanks for the animal. It wasn't just a crazy sport or whatever.
Right.
So thank you all for that.
As you say that, sweetie, it occurs to me, you go back to Yeshua and he says, in order for you to live, you need to die. In order for the true being to live. And you've been doing, especially with going back and working on your book, more and more of that, literally digesting that self that needs to die, that self that is based in falsehood, as you've been coming into more clarity and more power. And so perhaps that could also be applied to it. And I hadn't thought of it this way, but as you say, put those other thoughts forward, that your Ruka is saying to you, stay conscious as you digest yourself. The lowercase self is you, the uppercase self. Digest the lowercase self. Hold the space, keep love present, and instead of falling back into that self when it's resonated, when it's activated. And you'll metabolize it, you'll digest it.
Yep, it sounds right on.
One of the things Ram Dass he's got a book actually, I haven't read it, but I'm a little bit familiar with it. It's called Grist for the Mill. And in some teachings, they'll actually, allow new students to come in and they'll literally use them just like fodder in a cannon fodder in a battle. World War I, World War II, they talked about cannon fodder, and they'll use the new students that come in as, grist for the mill. And stay conscious as you're digesting and moving through that lowercase self, lowercase s self, and eating it, metabolizing it, and becoming dear to yourself. Maybe there's a reason it was a deer. Deer.
That's a thought.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left, so if you're out there in listener land, what's on your mind? Push one. Let's have a conversation. And if we're complete for dialogue today, then I'm going to just go back to work on getting things done so that our journeys will be able to wind up all the loose ends we've got. And we'll say thank you for joining us, and create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.